Hello and welcome back. Today I want to invite you into my kitchen and show you something I've enjoyed making. My family and I choose to drink almond milk over dairy milk, and we usually purchase it from the store. However, I've decided to try making it at home, and I have to say it's quite simple. It's also very tasty. In addition, I thought if I can make almond milk, why not try various nuts? So I've decided to try cashew nut milk. And I have to say, it's absolutely my favorite of the two. Don't worry, as I said, it's very simple. All you'll need are unsalted cashew nuts, water, a pinch of salt, and dates if you choose to add some natural sweetness. In addition, a blender or a food processor, and a nut milk bag or a cheese strainer. So the first step that I took before getting here was I had my cashews soaking overnight. Just about a cup, depending on how much you want to make, but I had a cup in here. I let them soak overnight, and you might notice that the cashews themselves, they got really big, and if I were to touch them, you'll see that they're really soft. So 1 cup of cashews, I'm gonna go ahead and pour it into my processor. Now I use a food processor because that is what I have handy, but if you have a blender, feel free to use that as well. So what I usually do is I let this process on its own first for about a minute or two. Based on some recommendations, it allows it to really shred nicely. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's been going for about a minute, I just like to take the time to scrape the sides just to make sure everything gets incorporated and nothing is sort of left out. And then I'll put this again. I'll put it to process again for another minute. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've stopped it just for the sake of speaking because you wouldn't hear me otherwise. But what I would do now that it's been going for about 2 minutes is I would then bring out my water, and for measurement's sake and simplicity or making it easier, I just pull out 2 bottles of water. Now that's usually the quantity that I go for, but yes, if you were making this for, as I said, just to drink or to pour into some cereal, feel free to add some dates for natural sweetness, a pinch of salt as well. It enhances the flavor and it goes a long way. But for this round, I'm only going to include my water. You can also include almond or vanilla extract for flavor. All right, now that this is done, let's move on to the next step. So this next step, as you'll see, is very simple. However, I think it's also very crucial. Now, depending on the blender or the processor that you use, you may not need this step, but I find that I need it, and so here goes. I have here what is called a nut bag. Some of you may already have one. If not, I'll leave a link where you can find one. So I put my nut bag. I like to do this in a couple steps. I put it in my pitcher, just hang it around the pitcher just so. And then I'll remove this lid here and I'll set this aside. So now what I do is I pour it into the pitcher. And the nut bag will catch, as you can see here, it will catch all of that because you don't want that in your milk. Unless you prefer very chewy milk, but it'll catch all of it. I use my spatula, it's like amazing. Just to get everything out of there. Set this back down. So then what I do, I let it drip for a little bit as it has been doing. bring it up. You see that? And then I'll use my hands to gently press it out. You don't want to squeeze too hard, because then you might end up squeezing the very thing that you're preventing from going through. Now I know there are recipes out there that you can use this. I like to call it pulp. I'm not sure what the official term is, but there are recipes where you can make cookies and other things from this. So if you choose to, set it aside. What I do is I put it in a little Ziploc bag, put it in the fridge, and I can use it later for the recipe. Now don't keep it too long, because I find it does go bad quickly. So yes, if you want to find a recipe, you could use this. If not, throw it out right away. So now what I do next is I use one more step. This is a bottle I like to keep my milk in. I just think it's really cute, and it's reminiscent of the days when milkmen would deliver milk in a bottle, I think. So I just think it's really cute. So what I do now is I put my nut bag that I rinsed off screen into the bottle, just to catch anything that might have slipped the first time through. Just squeeze that in a bit. Now this has something where you could adjust it accordingly, so that's really cool. A drawstring, I believe it's called. And then I'll just take the milk and pour it in. And usually the first time around, it did a pretty good job of catching all the pulp. But for me, this is just an extra step in case anything got through. Just in case, it'll catch it. But as you can see, there's not much there. So there we have it. Put my lid on. This is, I believe, 1 liter of fluid. So I use a little less than the recommended amount for the recipe that I found, only because I like my milk to be creamy. So instead of 5 cups of water, I use about 4 to 4.5, depending. So this is the final result, guys.